Okay, Twitch has accepted the stream. And YouTube has accepted the stream. And now let's see. Facebook always takes a few more minutes. And Facebook has accepted the stream. Okay, now I'm going to give you guys a link. And how do you want me to send it to you? You want me to put it on the screen so you can just read it off the screen?
You can do that. You can send it in.
You want me to send it to your text?
Sure.
Your phone? Whatever's easier.
Anyways, whatever's easier to throw onto there, through Facebook, through the phone. 716 6
Hold-
We're counting down.
In the middle of the screen will be your timer so you can see how much time is left on your show. Okay.
I moved the wrong way.
Okay, so now let's send some texts out. Stand by while I get the link. All right, I'm waiting. Okay, Facebook, give me the link. Copy link. Okay, I shall send it to you now. Now I'm ready for the number. 716?
698
716 698
4812.
4812. And let's see. Here is the link. Does anybody else want the link from the show so you can tell your friends to watch you live?
Yeah, you can send it to my
Okay.
Facebook and text if you have my.
All right, I got your text up here. Here is the link. And okay, you now have the link on your phone, Gordon.
Okay.
If you want to share it with your friends, you can.
Oh, I don't know where my phone is. I think it's in my bag here someplace.
Okay. Dave, do you need the link? No, Dave's got it. Steve, do you need the link?
Sure, I'll take it.
All right, you want me to send it to you through a text message?
Sure, 716
All right.
873
873
3073.
3073. All right.
Richard, I have a bottle with a cap on it, a screw-on cap. Is that acceptable, or should I get one of these?
As long as you keep putting the cap back on.
I will.
Okay, Steve, you got it.
Thank you.
Stay hydrated.
That's right.
Oh, what the? Yes. That's.
Number 9. Number 9.
Not for you, from me. You're foolish earthlings. I think we're wasting time, aren't we?
Not if it's going to increase your audience.
You become naked.
You're right. You're right.
That's me.
This is why
Gordon,
I
you-
don't like Instagram.
I don't use it at all.
I don't either. Your post was shared. I think I might have just shared to it. I don't know. I really hate that because I don't like what people are doing every 15 minutes.
What was even worse than that was whatever that one where they would dance around and
Oh, TikTok,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's the garbage heap, man. But I'm just trying to send something here. Create one for you. No, I've had enough of you. Oh, that's video. Whatever.
Oh, you already got one viewer.
Ooh.
See, you got your first comment.
are they hearing what we're saying now?
Yeah, yeah.
This should be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's ramp up the fun, and we'll stop with this silly technical stuff.
All right. You see there's, Gordon, you see the timer in the center of the screen?
Yes, I do. 5.
When it says,
I'm sorry, hit the. I went to put it.
when it says on the air, you are on the air.
Okay, it's with the. It says 5 now, right?
Well, that's the countdown. I shall
Okay.
start the countdown.
Oh, come on.
Okay. Look up, Dave.
Sorry, I was just trying to send more messages out to get more fans. Okay, let's begin the fun. Who's the host?
Hello, this is Gordon Blake, and this is Higher Powered Radio, our video edition of Higher Power Radio. And tonight I have a couple of interesting guests, and we're in Buffalo, New York, the Big Buffalo by the Great Lakes. And my two guests tonight are Mr. Stephen Trask, a newspaper man, and Mr. Dave Schmeidler, a musician in Buffalo, New York. Tonight we're going to discuss various really embarrassing moments in their lives. I'm going to ask a
We're going to need
bunch
more
of
than an hour, I think, for that.
very embarrassing questions to these guys. Similar to most of my Higher Power Radio programs. But anyways, I'm not as bad as some of the people on this network. No names mentioned. But I'd like to thank Richard Gwidka for being our guest, host, and astounding member of the Buffalo Multimedia organization. And a real great person in helping other people with their careers and getting their messages out and kind of giving the 3 chords that John Lennon said, just come up with 3 chords and say what you want to say. So he supplies the 3 chords and lets people say what they want to say. And tonight, it's very good to be back in Buffalo, first of all, and be with 2 friends, 3 friends, actually, with Richard. And Steve, what do you think about the Buffalo summer so far?
Well, it's actually been a little bit ahead of schedule as far as the heat and the humidity in that, I guess, for as far as Buffalo goes. Usually we're a little, more toward a late spring type of temperatures and that, but I guess we'll live with it, Never a bad thing when Buffalo's actually ahead of things, so.
Very
I've
good.
been enjoying it so far.
And how about you, Dave? How do you feel about the Buffalo summer so far?
It's been a Buffalo summer. It's different every 15, 20 minutes. You always want to keep sweaters on hand. You always want to layer. Just think in layers and you survive in this weather. Not like California. California, it's going to be hot.
Well, yeah, it was, right?
And it might rain. Other than that,
It might rain maybe 3 days out of the whole year. But, I moved from the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains down to the beach in Long Beach. So I have a ideal climate. It's like 70 every day. even when it's 100 in where I lived in Glendale, it's 70 something.
Yeah, the valley is always worse.
Yeah, by the oceans are very good. So it is what it is. And I just went Friday night up on Hurdle Avenue to see Dave play with another musician who you may want to mention his name and tell us more about how that felt.
Oh, that was great. That was my friend Bob Malucci. We are doing a little. We each play solo and then we play as a duo. We're going to be doing it again on Hurdle Avenue, I think out in front of the Boost shop on July 19th, and then at the Revolution Gallery for part of the Tom Waits tribute. I think July 29th or so.
Great. How about, do you have any other musical projects going on?
Yes. I have a band called Whale Dogs that's appearing, oh boy, I think it's towards the end of August at the Lion and Eagle pub. I'm also part of an open jam at the Screening Room in the Boulevard Mall. That'll be on July 10th. We invite all kinds of musicians and whatnot to come and perform and utilize our equipment and our advice and expertise. That's about all I can think of right this moment.
Good. And what's some of your history in Buffalo music? I know you've been playing for years.
Yes, it's an equation I'm giving now that I've gone back to teaching some, and when somebody asks how long, I could say I was born in 1955. I got my first guitar on my 10th birthday. So, if that's too difficult, then we'll go to how many years old I am and subtract that 10. So I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. They were what drove me into wanting to play music. It took about a year and a half to get an instrument in my hands. That's just been full steam since then. I've had to do other things to be able to make money, to not totally sacrifice myself to music, but that's helped me along too.
Great. Any groups that you want to mention that you've been a part of?
There was unfortunately what was it? Oh, the band's name was Maya. This incredibly talented woman named Donna Bursey. Noah Bursey was, then she converted to Judaism. She's quite an interesting story. And beautiful singer and songwriter. And but that never quite worked. I played with the band Gamelan for a couple of years, played at Lafayette Square, opening up for David Sanborn, a few other things like that. A Celtic rock band called Stone Row that played up and down the East Coast. 2017 inductee into the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame. And
any humorous stories from the road, or?
Yes. Yes. Well, what would you like to start with, and at what date?
Yeah. October the 4th, 19.
Oh, I don't know how specific I could get to that. That's a little tough, but every day's a story. That's one of my favorite things. I get paid for people to entertain me. I enjoy watching them perform for me.
Yeah, it is.
I don't have to stand and stare at my hands all the time. I can look out and look at what's happening there. It's fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I performed mostly in the 60s, and you'd look out at the crowd, and it would be like people were having... I'm breaking through the stratosphere, kind of looks on their face.
They still do. Most of them are melting into the floor now.
Just the opposite direction. But yeah, crowds are
Yeah.
incredible.
It just, you know, watching all the interactions and everything, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, you learn from everything in life, I like to think.
We always used to get play and all that. I think it was George Carlin who said the way you handle hecklers is say, see what inbreeding will do for you. And hello, Steve. How are you, bud? I don't mean to leave you sitting over there.
No, it's all right. I'm enjoying listening.
Steve and I were in the same crew at Buffalo State College back in the 80s, and he was on camp board. I was helping out with concert board, and some friends of ours were the president and vice president of the student government, so we were constantly haggling with them trying to get good stuff. I remember getting a stereo for the camp board with Steve. Tell me some things about the old camp board at Buffalo State, Whispering Pines.
Well, one of the great things about those days at Buff State was there was a lot of student involvement, especially if you were involved in any particular groups, and there was a lot of interaction between the groups. Student Union Board, the camp board that I was involved in, which was basically the organization that ran a 612-acre camp out in Franklinville, New York, that the students owned through the Faculty Student Association. And we all, you know, like if there was a concert that was in that night, we all volunteered to be, you know, part of the evening to help take care of the event and that. And we all worked with each other in those days, and it was really a good thing. The Student Union Board was obviously very involved in, you know, bringing the groups to campus, and there were, you know, some pretty eventful concerts that came in those days. Some big names that, you know, these days, you know, it's, you know, people look back and I'm like, wow, you know, they really brought them in, you know, REM and, you know, you name it, U2, you know, some bands that became pretty big in their day.
Really big bands.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the things that really made it more than worthwhile to be a student in those days, is that there was so much involvement and people bringing, you know, people out for the events that were on campus and that, and or even off campus, actually, some certain events here and there.
Yeah, they had a lot of people that some of their last performances, like Warren Zevon.
Yeah, there was a great show
Oh,
up in
yeah.
the Student Union Lounge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very good. And right before she sacrificed her career, Sinead O'Connor, I don't know if you remember that, when she came in with that first album. That was, you know, she was pretty groundbreaking at that time. And actually, it was great. You know, all the organizations worked together. Even
Right.
we ended up with so much.
WBNY and their, you know.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
was
what
coming
they
off
were-
the ground.
They,
Sure.
they were groundbreaking as far as the music format
That's
that they
right.
had.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I can't think of his name right now, but he turned out to be
Tom, no, not Calandra. Oh,
Lorenz? No, not Tom. Lorenz.
Anyway.
Cordione.
Yes.
Calderon.
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 Yeah.
He
Yeah.
became the head of MTV at one point. you
Yeah.
know, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was amazing actually, with all working together as you worked on, you know, the concerts as security or hospitality or whatever. And then we had so much money left, and the only thing that was going to go was back into the school. So we got the rugby football field. It was the rugby football club, and we brought in Ramones. Do you remember that concert, Ramones?
Oh,
And, was it REM and Green Jello, or was somebody?
Green Jello was the opener. I remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And you know, half the city showed up. It was just a free concert. It was
On the
just
side of the
money,
gym.
Yeah,
Yeah.
profits from other concerts. Yeah, that was a lot of fun time. And then you went into the newspaper business, didn't you? Weren't you?
Yeah, I somehow managed to actually get my degree and go into newspapering for quite a few years, working mostly locally, working in papers in Jamestown, in Lockport, Amherst, and Niagara Falls. and got a pretty well-rounded background in that. Between started out in sports, but soon found myself wanting to be a little more fulfilled and got into the government and politics area of things instead. And feel like I had a pretty good career in it. It wasn't easy to stay in it for a long time because of the newspaper business, as everybody knows, has kind of taken a hit the last few years and has dwindled quite a bit. Between the digital age and broadcasting and other things that have come into it and everything. But I felt like I was in, during a pretty good time too. We started out at a time when we were still working on typewriters, and at the tail end of it that I was there, that we were doing most everything on computers. So I kind of saw the whole evolution of things right through. And I guess my thing these days is, as far as local news and that, it's such an important thing, and I'm worried about things as far as how that goes, because people are developing into doing their own thing with it. It's hard to tell who the real journalists are sometimes from the fake ones and that, and that's kind of, maybe it's all part of the evolution right now.
Yeah.
So I hope that it can survive somehow, because I think that local news gathering is an important thing. I felt like we did important things, keeping people informed about what their school district was up to, what the tax rate was going to be or whatever, what the local city council would be doing, what things they were trying to bring in.
I know you shared a lot of news stories with me. What one stands out with you at
Well, the one that always stands out most to me is that I worked at the paper up in Lockport, and I guess it would stand out because I had a chance to sit at the same table that Tim McVeigh used to have his breakfast at, because his dad did an interview with me the week before he was executed.
Wow.
And that was, you don't forget experiences like that. I actually felt bad for his dad. He seemed like a decent man, and he was very regretful about the fact that his son had become the monster that he was, to have killed so many people like that and everything. And stories like that stick with you, because I had a chance to go around the whole community, because he grew up in Pendleton, which isn't very far from here at all, and met a lot of people that knew him growing up in that, and almost to a person, they were all like, yeah, he was a good kid, and something happened to him when he was in the services. Something changed him.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know quite a few of my close friends growing up that went in the service in Vietnam and stuff, and they came back, and they couldn't even talk with us. I don't know what happened to a lot of them. It's war is hell. It's really sad. And Dave, tell me more about music in the Buffalo scene going on right now. Is there anything earth-breaking or somebody you think's gonna really make that breakthrough?
Well, sure. I mean, there's a great band called Grosh that are really building up a storm here. They still play a lot locally, but they're spreading their wings because that's what you have to do. Buffalo's not the place to become a star. It's the place to get your act together and then get it out to the world.
Yeah, that's the truth. And you get very little support locally from what I remember the audiences. I mean, you play someplace else and people will be like, overwhelmed, and you're just not here to cheers and whistles and hoots and hollers, and Buffalo group or Buffalo audiences are a rough nut to crack.
Yeah. They've done it. There's a number of people that are doing that and building up on that local level. And they just need to be able to spread their wings out to the rest of the world to move on.
Yeah, it was funny because of the fellowship. A fellow that I'm with in the fellowship with Dave Goddard picked me up when I was trying to come to your show
Right,
the other night.
right.
Came right. He said, "Oh, you know him? Yeah." And you guys knew one another. What's the name of his group? It's kind of a strange name. As women, I think, and
Yeah, I don't remember what the name was. They played at that party that
they all played at that.
I think they did last year, didn't they? You were there for the last one.
Yeah, I remember Dave playing
Yeah.
solo and then the lady singing, but I didn't know if they were connected or not.
I don't know. Was that the group with the rap?
Yeah,
I know they did something else. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but it was
Yeah.
nice to see that,
Yeah, it was good to
somebody
see
I
him.
knew from some,
Well, that's in Buffalo. You walk 3 feet and you run into somebody that you know.
yeah.
I
everybody-
go to the store to pick up a loaf of bread or something, and I'm there for a half hour because I run into a couple of people. And it's great.
I was just trying to figure out, I don't have my glasses on, real glasses, reading glasses. Is that somebody saying something about us there Richard, in
It
the,
was about your microphone.
what does it says?
It says everything's fine now.
Oh, okay. Good. That's a good thing to know. And, yeah, speaking of that, is coming up July 25th, isn't it? Maybe I shouldn't broadcast it, seeing it's kind of a private party. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things going on in Buffalo that will be, well worth going to see over the summer months. And
Well, that
yeah.
was one of the things that, going back to 2020 when everything got so shut down from the pandemic and that, I always was thinking about how before that, during the summers, it seemed like there was a real scene that was really starting to develop in downtown Buffalo, a lot of events and everything going on and everything, and that kind of cut it off. But I guess seems like it's starting to build up again, and it's a great thing. Like when we were young, we were always talking about how downtown Buffalo was going to be this, they were going to build it up and people were going to start doing things down there. And now all of a sudden it seems like it really is coming back all of a sudden.
it seems like, I don't want to get political, but it always seems like whenever anything in Buffalo is good, the powers that be want to move it like way over there. Just take it way over there, and then like Lafayette Square, which was just such a great Thursday
Yeah.
night event. Every
Buffalo doesn't like traffic jams.
But it's really, at the waterfront and everything, they're bringing back a lot of entertainment and making family situations available and everything.
Yeah.
So it's, and when you go down to Furman Boulevard and go along the waterfront, there's a lot going on there.
Places you'd want to be like about a month out of the year. The rest of the time, you'd have to, never mind. Yeah,
Well, maybe more than a month.
Yeah.
Maybe more than a
I'm
month.
being-
We'll take a ride. We'll take you down there.
I've been down there.
Take you on
yeah.
the road.
Well, I remember the year they moved the Italian Fest down there, and it was like all of 30 people went to, or it used to be like thousands.
We kayaked by on the outside in the water, just looking up.
Well,
Yeah.
they smartly brought it back to Hurdle, although Dave may not like that as much.
Well,
with it being in
it's
his
not right
neighborhood.
around the corner from us now.
Yeah.
That's starting, we don't want to start talking about things like that.
I think it was at your corner, though. I did see with when Tony Galla came back into town and did a thing with Sam, Bobby Militello and Sam, the sax player. They had set up a great band for him. He had
Yeah.
really-
But there's all those things. They had a De Niro impersonator one year. Junction West every year, and that would be like a high school reunion with some of the members of Junction West every year, and it'd be right at my corner.
Oh, cool.
But I could sit on my porch otherwise, and I have a stereo loud enough to be able to block out even music down the street.
Yeah, the first year I went, there was only one stage. It was right in front of that little library on Delaware and Hurdle. And I sat with my friend Elmwood Freddy, who probably anybody who hears this cast probably run into Elmwood Freddy at one point or another. But he ran. He goes, "Come on over, sit with my dad." And his dad, Mr. Russo, is a longtime Buffalonian Italian, and it was Jerry Vale was the singer.
Wow.
It was pretty good though. I don't know what songs he sang. Jerry Vale sang one of his famous Italian songs. It was fun. It was sitting there, and Mr. Russo had tears in his eyes. It was well worth the price of admission. Yeah, Buffalo. I just grew up here. I watched so many successful clubs, and they're being closed down because the people simply didn't like them being there. Even places that were there for decades. Like the Glen Casino, which everybody from Glenn Miller to Frank Sinatra to later days Sly and the Family Stone and Paul Butterfield. We were playing there when it burnt down, and our bass player's equipment burned down, and it was all kind of questionable, why it. And now the Pink just burned down, and I'm sure as they investigate, they're going to find out that it
Well,
was.
I've never seen a club be mourned like that place was, too.
Yeah.
Everybody has, like, memories that they can't quite remember of that place.
Yeah, I think my memories really are more of mostly mulligans and how most of the times that I went there, I never wanted to be there.
Yeah.
it was an awful place.
Yeah.
You always had to watch out because you could get hit by something or somebody
That's true.
at any time.
Yeah, Allentown I gravitated more to the Elmwood Strip, and you could always fall down in Bidwell Green if it just got out, everything got too much. Right?
And you sure wouldn't be alone.
Yeah, right. And wake up in the morning, right? It looked like a campsite. There'd be people sleeping here and there. But yeah, it's a great city, but it just seems like every time we're having a real lot of fun, they just want us to go someplace else,
Yeah.
We always, regroup and we have fun wherever they kind of make us go to, and that, we create our own neighborhoods. But yeah, getting back to the college camp, I remember right before I left town, you guys had a real big event out there with a stage and an ox roast, and God, there was so much going on there.
Yeah, the event was called Rural Madness, and I was actually the co-chairman of the first three that they had, along with an old buddy of ours, Kevin McCarthy. And anybody knows Kevin, he had a way of planning things coming up. The thing that I always feared hearing Kevin say was, "I got a great idea," because a lot of times they usually were, but it meant too that it was like there was something that was off the wall about it too at times too. But yeah, we used to get like about 30 buses of students out there from the campus, and we'd have like 3 or 4 bands playing on the stage that we built into the side of the hill, the toboggan hill, and everything. And in those days, students could even drink because the drinking age was 18. So we'd, 30 kegs of beer out there and everything, and it was quite a happening. A few of them that we had out there, and fortunately, never any bad incidents either, because in an event that big, it's always possible that something bad could happen. But most of them went off pretty well along the way.
That was a really pretty good period to be at university. I was at UB in the late 60s, and that got a little dangerous. I mean, from police firing shotguns at people trying to go in the student union to, just volleys and volleys of pepper gas, which wasn't supposed to be used at all on anybody in the United States. It was, it was meant for war zone things.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I was on campus when the drinking age went from 18, then to 19, and then to 21. I think that was the interval they did over a maybe 3 or 4 year period or whatever. So there were people that actually could drink legally, and then they couldn't, and then they couldn't drink again, and then they could again, during that time. I was a little bit older student because I took a couple of years before I actually went into school and everything. So it was never, a big deal with me, but it was definitely quite a different atmosphere. We had the pub on campus, and, I'm sure more students than should have were probably missing classes hanging out in there a lot of times.
But it was a good time to be at school. It was very
Oh, yeah.
calm and very together. Everybody
Yeah.
sort of had unity.
There was a real community-oriented thing, whether you lived on campus or just off of campus. There really was, a lot of involvement and a lot of things that were going on, and people really excited about the events that were coming to campus. And of course, like we were talking about earlier, a lot of the exciting concerts that came, Rita Marley and the Wailers, and other bands like that came along.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still remember the one day that they had. I believe it was commuter days. I don't know if it was residence days or not, but where they had a fun game of dizzy bats going on campus the one day. That was quite memorable. I always called that the happiest day ever because they actually had like administrators and faculty involved in that game, and I never saw so many people laughing in one day that they did that day.
That wasn't the Milton Fest, right?
No, but it would have been like a similar event, where they had things going on, when Dr. Johnstone was the president of the campus.
Yeah.
And everything. He was I liked him a lot. I had a lot of involvement with him because I was one of the editors of the school newspaper, so I had a monthly meeting with him about the state of the campus and everything.
Yeah.
And he really cared about the students a lot. He was a good president of the campus.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Dr. Chapman, head of academic development, they were all really, and John, the head of the student union, just working with us on putting on events, and it was never like roadblocks and stuff. They just wanted to get along with us and help us, and so that nobody caused any problems. But Dave, are you from Western New York area originally?
I am, and actually that was interesting because I was going to kind of slip in this about our connection is through the camp board. I am originally from Buffalo. I was born in Children's Hospital on December 3rd, 1955. And through some mutual friends, got associated with the Whispering Pines weekends that they were hosting. There were winter, there were summer where you could bring kids, and we started attending those and getting to be friends with the people there, and then finding the strange commonalities and threads, because when they were doing these Rural Madness concerts, I was working at Top Shelf Music on Hurdle Avenue. Some of my customers and friends were people like Winterwood, George Duran's band that played there,
Did
the
a lot of
Steam
events,
Donkeys. I heard stories, pardon me, from them of these parties, and wow, that sounds awesome. I didn't get to any of the parties, but now, we're very close friends. There's a great group around that, and we couldn't make it to this last trip down there because as we're getting older, there's things like my wife having bunion surgery and not being able to, be on her feet. Couldn't make it this time, but.
Yeah, 40-some years later, and a lot of us still are the best of friends and still getting together for these kind of things. We do this annual reunion basically out at the camp in the winter, and, get one of the lodges and hang out for the weekend together and play Monopoly and Cornhole or whatever. You know,
All the games.
Are
Yeah.
there more than one lodge now?
there's still the two lodges that were. We usually rent out the old lodge, you know, because it's not a huge group, you know, that comes down like did originally. But we've been doing the reunions now for more than 20 years.
Wow.
Originally, they started out as a late summer thing, when most of the, you know, the people, their kids were still young in that, and they could corral them to come out and everything. But as they got older and their kids had, you know, high school and sports weekends and things like that that couldn't come, we decided to turn it over into more of an adult weekend with the members and friends and stuff, because the kids, originally the kids were still coming down in that, but it was a little harder to get that all together that way. So
The
now we
winter
just,
ones were for the adults.
yeah, they
That was-
developed into just mostly the
Yeah.
adults for
And
the
that was
weekend.
no holds barred, and there's
Well, the
too
ones that
many
the ones
stories.
that called themselves adults, because
no names.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, kids in that at the camp. Actually, Steve was nice enough to give me a ride out to see my son's band perform out in Hamburg last night. 9FM band. I gave you a plug, Keith. Anyways, yeah, that was, you know, it's when I think about that at that time, they would have been, you know, like those kids running around,
Oh yeah.
you know.
Well, when we started having the reunion, my daughter would have been, you know, young, just, you know, starting school, you know, first, second grade and stuff. Now she's, sorry, Rachel, in her early 30s and giving me 3 grandchildren. So
Yeah,
it
it's
goes to show how long we've been doing this.
It's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Now, Dave, you told me a story, I think when I first met you, about a music class. I don't remember exactly what the name of the music class was at Kenmore. And you had like quite a star-studded cast at that time, even in high school.
That was, yes, 10th grade at Kenmore East, and my first class was called Rudiments of Music. The teacher was Mr. John Potts, who the poor man didn't deserve to be terrorized the way that he was, because that was right at the time when Cactus and the Amboy Dukes were playing at Gilligan's. So you can timeline when that was happening, because that was happening while we were in school. And some of my classmates were going to those shows. I was a little too young to do that, but those in that class was Ted Reinhardt, Billy Sheehan, Bruce Bricado, Mike Migliori, who went on the road with Maynard Ferguson for years. Ron Wagner, a percussionist who went to Juilliard and then moved out to the West Coast. You know Ron.
I know Ron.
Ron's another unique character. He continued on to the second class. He was fun. Incredibly talented, loads of fun.
Yeah.
You know, I do have to mention my still friend Chris Domrays, who was kind of my conduit into getting to be friends with all of those people. And I mean, forgive me if there's anybody else I can't think of. Stuart Zeff, who plays in the band War, tours around with them now.
Was Freeland or any of that?
No, that was Kenmore West.
Okay.
That was they were different. We had our own, you know, the whole. I mean, we all interacted with each other, but that was the Kenmore East crop, and you know, comparison games are foolish.
Then it must have been the West crowd. I remember when they first started. My first apartment in Elmwood was in 1968. It was right at the corner of Elmwood and Forest, behind the Copycat. It used to be a print place right on the corner. So I lived there for a long time. And then also all these Kenmore kids, Mark Freeland and, you know, Kent and
Well, it was West and Amherst kind of meeting, because Kent, I think, went to Amherst, didn't he?
I thought he did. I thought he was Kenmore. But anyways,
could-
there was
we'll ask him.
David Kane, and
Kent, where are you?
there was a whole bunch of them that came at
Yeah.
the same time. And I said, "Oh, you guys are from Kenmore. What do they call the resident, like Buffalonians? What do they call you guys, the Kenmorons?"
You didn't come up with that, did you?
Yes.
I love that. I love that. Yes. Yeah, I have some great friends that, we went to different schools at the same time. And
Yeah.
that,
I think they must all been from West Side. I don't want to
yeah.
give your school a bad name, but anyways.
No. If they had a name for us, I don't know it.
Anyways, I was thinking of Elmwood Avenue during that period. It was like
Oh,
there were
geez.
porch parties basically every weekend, and you lived right on that strip
Oh, yeah.
between Bird and Potomac.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a big upstairs porch.
I remember the address, 1034, 1036 Elmwood. And again, the same partner in crime, Kevin McCarthy. I lived with him and a few other people, and we were coming up with any excuse we could to have the next party, and never ran out of ideas for them either, it seemed like. And yeah, that was quite a scene back then. That was right after, not long after they had changed all of the laws on how many people had to be kept in the hospital on Forest Avenue. The mental hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So there was always a lot of interesting characters that were wandering around the streets in those days.
Do you
And
remember Buzz Armstrong, the guy that used to wear a football helmet, and he would never have a shirt on, and he would eat out of the... It was the year that there was 1 million bees and all those garbage things. He'd be pulling stuff out, and bees would be flying around his head. He would be eating like a chicken bone. He was about 6'9". He weighed about 100 pounds. Yeah, it was a bunch of them. And
yeah,
then
there were some interesting characters for sure.
we were just talking about him the other night. The guy that used to sit in front of the 24-hour store and sing country western songs. I think his name was Matt or something.
Matt the Birdman, we called him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he found like the reason we named him that is he found a bird cage or something that he strapped over his shoulder or something, and he walked around with his guitar playing with the bird chirping away too. And yeah, there were more than a few interesting characters, and I think we added to the interesting nature of the area too.
They probably thought that we were the ones that weren't
Oh yeah,
quite wired right.
no doubt.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, boy. It really was. And I might as well just blow their reputation now that I'm on the air, even though it's not the Greg Strelly show. I went to a party, that same apartment you used to live in. Later on, it was some fraternity, and they were having a porch party. And Jimmy McLaughlin and Nolan Curtis, and I can't remember who the third person was, but so I won't randomly just name somebody. They came up and they kind of, they were really, really drunk. I mean, skunk drunk, like yelling, "Hey, this frat sucks," and stuff. And they said, you guys can't come in here. So there were like 4 tires stacked up with rims on them, snow tires. And they threw them all down the stairs. They were going boom, boom, boom down the stairs, down the front yard, and going out into Elmwood Avenue and stuff. But Jimmy McLaughlin did say that it was the last night that he ever drank.
Oh,
So
geez.
yeah, I guess good things come from.
Something to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some good fringe benefits from like going back to some of the stuff we were talking about with the on-campus stuff. One of our roommates was on the student union board, and actually brought back a couple of members of the English Beat with them to our apartment. And I'm pretty sure that was probably a memorable night for them. By the end of the night, they were calling us the crazy Yankees and everything.
Yeah, I think that same concert, there was Patrick lived across the street, kind of above Home in the Hits or Zootsuit City, one of those. And REM came to that one, and Jack, and I can't remember what Jack's last name was that lived with Patrick, But Michael Stipe
Michael
said,
Stipe was at that, I heard.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he said, I cannot stand the smell of buffalo chicken wings. Get him out. I said, Jack and him got in a fight. I mean, it was like a fist fight over
Oh,
buffalo
geez.
chicken wings. So, only in Buffalo. You know.
Oh, really? Wow.
In the wrong place to get in an argument about buffalo chicken wings.
Yes.
But yeah, there was.
That's almost worse than going for ranch dressing, I think.
Yeah. And I lived just down the street. My roommate was Richie O'Connor, who was like a notorious bartender. I remember when we'd go into Merlin's. He was managing Merlin's at that time, and whenever he had a chance to run into the sound booth, he put on Sex Pistols or the Clash or the Stranglers or something. Everybody was like, "Oh, what did we?" He finally he opened Putnam. Then he started managing Good Bar, and he opened New Wave Night or Punk Rock Night, where it used to be like 8 splits for $1 or something like that.
Yeah, really.
It was, yeah, he was, unfortunately, he's passed away, may God rest his soul. He was a good person. Probably managed all those bars at one time. I know he managed Good Bar and Merlin's and No Name. And then originally he was the first manager of the Continental
Oh,
under Bud, yeah. And, but he, his excesses just took his life after a while. Yeah, it was a wild, wild crowd up there all the time, Oh, my God.
and we seem to be around it all the time, too.
Yeah. I lived in Kenmore one time, too, for a while. I was staying with a girl, and we had a garden apartment right next to Consumer Beverages on Elmwood Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the only contact I had with Kenmore police that time. And there was this missing woman who had couldn't find her. And I showed her a picture, and I said, that was that lady. We were watching out the window, and she was arguing with some man next to a SUV or a big, what are those the big mobile home things. And she was riding on a bicycle, and then she disappeared. And I said, I saw that woman over there arguing with a man at that place, and they turned, they couldn't figure out what happened to her and stuff. And then they turned it all around that I was like the criminal. I was going, what are you trying to do? I'm just trying to, I had my girlfriend call the cops. I said, I've never called the cops in my life. So you got to call them, but I think I should tell them about this. And she remembered it because we were watching them. And, yeah, I thought they were going to arrest me for, whatever, for this story. And then they find her dead in his bathtub. And yeah, it was a strange thing. She was a choice she had going on with. She had a family and a house just down the street from there, and this guy was just some wacko
See,
guy.
I grew up in the town of Tonawanda.
Oh, did you really?
And anybody growing up in the town of Tonawanda or the village of Kenmore knew to be wary of the police. If you knew what was good for you, you kept your lip zipped.
Yeah.
And drove the speed limit.
Why that's going? It says 8 o'clock. I have no idea what the alarm is.
Our timer says different.
Okay.
At least that's.
We
that's
still
our
have a little
showtime.
bit of time. So any
Yes.
enlightening things that have hit your minds across the last few days you want to speak of, please feel free to just jump in.
Yeah. Well, I won't bring any more into it, but I guess I'm still a little too political from my newspaper days yet.
Yeah.
For some reason, I can't seem to shake that, and I just hope things go well for our country. It's kind of a sad, low time in my mind. As far as like I've been following it since I was a kid, and we go through good times and bad times with it. And it seems like mostly bad times a lot lately, but I think everybody is a little too busy in their life to really let it take them down too much. So I'm probably like a little bit kind of unique in that regard as far as how I let it still get to me a little too much at times. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I got a good part-time job to keep my mind off it most of the time now.
We're a resilient country. I posted a thing that this producer that I know, I'm just going to call him Miss Bond, but her son was born right before 9/11. And she'd picked up her dad, and she was going, "Oh my God, Dad, why do I have to have a son when the end of the world's going to come?" And why? She was crying, and he said, "Listen," he said, "I was here during the Korean War, I was here during the Vietnam War, I was here during 9/11. Many crises, Cuban Missile Crisis, and so on and so forth." And he said, "The sun's going to rise on America again, and we're going to have another great day." And, all these things that seemed like they were the end at one time weren't, and she posted that right in the beginning of the pandemic. And, it was like, I mean, there were seconds, and I thought, right at 9/11, too, I thought this is, I think this is the end,
Yeah.
And I actually took my aunt's life. She called me up. She said, "This is the end, isn't it?" And I said, "No, it's not." But she passed away like 3 months later, but she was 98. So, and I'm sure that at points of the pandemic, it seemed like, this is the great plague that they've always talked about. This is going to be the one that takes us out. And it's
Somehow we always bounce back, though.
That's right. The sun rises on America. The sun's going to rise again.
And I think what we need is people that have concern and all this panic. And they have to channel that energy into positive energy and do something to make that difference.
Yeah, that's right.
People with skills. This man is such a master of words. And to be able to use that for promoting good, for promoting the future, for promoting the idea of democracy, of what we want for our grandchildren.
Exactly.
And we can do that. And I want to see what I can do in my capacities.
That's right.
We all can contribute somehow, and sitting and saying, I wish that something would happen. I wish that this, or, I think this is a good idea. Don't keep it to yourself.
Really? Keep on going.
That's social media.
Well, I was raised to always try to see people in a good light first.
Oh, yeah.
I had great role models in the two people that raised me, and it's proof positive as in the other 8 brothers and sisters that I have that, the human beings that they become. Sometimes I might be a little bit questionable in what's happened with me, but for the most part, I like to. Not always everybody believes this about me, but I really don't hate anybody. I think it's even a certain person that brings a lot of negativity to our country right now. I don't hate them. I try to see maybe not the best in them, but just see that there's somebody that, they were put here for a reason for us to look at and try to bring out the best in ourselves out of it somehow anyway. And I think it's too much time is wasted on feeling hate or negativity towards things anyway. I try to see the best in things, and I think if more of us were that way, and I honestly do believe that the overwhelming majority of us are good people that want good and want things to be good and right. Unfortunately, we get pulled down, but we also learn how to pull ourselves back up again, and I think that that's a good way to be living, if just to know that no matter how dim or dire things might seem at a certain point in time, they're going to get better. They're always going to get better, and I can't credit any more than the two people that raised me that instilled that in me. They put that in each and every one of us, my brothers and sisters, and they They lived it. I mean, they could have spent a lot of time just taking care of their kids and stuff. We had, in my family, a great tragedy that hit us just a month before his 20th birthday. The very youngest person in my family, my brother, had a very bad car accident and lived the rest of his life as a quadriplegic. And my parents spent their whole retirement taking care of him and, you know, making sure that he had a good life, even though the doctors at first said that he was never going to be able to have a meaningful life. But they made sure that he did. And you want to know something? Even though they had all that on their plate, they never gave up on their community either. They were still out there doing things in their community and making sure they were taking care of people in their community as well. And I have people to this day that when I go out there, I grew up in Angola, and you know, how many people are still inspired by the things that my parents and the people like my parents, their friends were also involved the same way too in their community and making sure that it wasn't just about them, it was about the people around there and what they could do for them or for each other.
That's right. Yeah, I try not to hate anything. There's too much hate in the world, and I think the best expression that I've heard in a lot of time is, you know, be the change that you want to see. You know, it all starts within us. You know, we're the catalyst for change, and you know, we've seen it happen, whether it was in music or in newspapers or just in life. You know, with our family, if we really want to be the change we want to see, you know, and the kids will follow. You know, it's like, as you know, being a parent, that where you you know, with the thing with the kids, you know,
Yeah.
well, you know, and don't do what do what I say, don't do what I do, but you have to set that example too.
It gets passed on.
Yes,
it really
it does.
does. I mean, I see it in my daughter. I'm extremely proud of what she's become and what she's doing, you know, and I already see it in my young grandchildren, how they are.
Yeah, they're just a mirror of us, and so we have to. The change has to come with us, and then we'll see it happen, you know, down the.
And you have to
line.
remember that you never stop being an inspiration. You never stop being observed. Like I was talking about, if you take in it all, you notice it. You notice people that I can be that way to an extent, saying, well, I'm old enough that I don't care about this anymore. But there are things that you care about and you should continue to care about, and those are in being an example.
That's right.
And you never stop being an example. And I'm not trying to shine, you know, my friend here, but you're an awesome example. You exude positivity,
Oh, thank you.
and that's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing to me. You know, you have the dark side of it, and you have the stories, and it's inspirational. That's,
I've run into some really wonderful people, like
yeah.
along the way, that I just, you know, as I try to pick up from what they, you know, said and did, and you know, try to carry that on. And you being a musician, that was our conversation today. You know, where a lot of people say, "Oh, he's as good as Hendrix," or we were talking about some, I don't remember which guitar player, but just where Jimi Hendrix was just so different. He just started that whole sort of thing where it came. You know,
He was the pioneer.
Well, he was. There were a lot of waves, and you know, people that came in that took huge chunks and laid down huge groundwork.
Yeah.
And he came from Buddy Guy, Curtis Mayfield, you know, the
Isley
beautiful, yeah, all of those things, and then the reckless abandon of Buddy Guy, Guitar Slim, guys like that, and showmanship of Little Richard, and then combine that with the psychedelic aspect of it and the visual aspect, and exploded things there. But there were so many along the way. There have been countless people in that power. But yeah, it's wonderful to see and ride along in all this, and hopefully make a mark on somebody else.
Yeah, and speaking of that, our host tonight, Richard, is a catalyst for a lot of people's careers, and going on. I think it was on the first week of the Greg Sterling show with Joni Russ, and we did she played guitar and I played harmonic. We did a version of Only a Hobo. It was the Dylan song that was covered by different people, Rod Stewart and so on and so
Right.
forth. And I watched Greg for, doing this with to make films. I was in two of Greg's films, become a filmmaker. And I think his zenith was when his show at the North Park Theater, which probably will never be shown, but it's a great film. That Richard, refresh my memory, please. What's the name of Greg's film? Lucy in the Sky with Catcher in the Sky with Diamonds?
Yeah. Yeah, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, right.
Yeah, which was a whole take on a crazy
No, it was Catcher in the Rye with Diamonds.
Catcher in the Rye with Diamonds.
Yeah, they took Catcher in the Rye and they looked at it from John Lennon's perspective.
And it was, but he used a lot of Beatles music without permission, which Richard just said that we can't use music on this show. But it was a great film, and he did a great job, great shots in New York City. And John Kennedy played, whatever the idiot's name was, he killed John Lennon. But he did a great job,
You got to say goodbye to the people.
I do. We're coming right down to 4. Thank you very much. My name is Gordon Blake, and this is Higher Powered Radio.